With us today, we have Lavon Marozau. He's an expert in human rights and is International Secretary at the Belarus National Youth Council. Lavon, thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you for...
6 months ago, Alexander Lukashenko was re-elected as president of Belarus. And since then, protesters have been calling for his resignation, for an end to the regime's use of violence, and for the release of political prisoners. But lately, news coverage of the situation has decreased, and the questions have arisen: is the revolution dead?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me, John. And when we're talking about our situation in Belarus, me personally, my colleagues don't call it like a revolution. We call it like moral protest, because we call it like moral peaceful protest. Moreover, no, it's not dead. Protest is not dead. We continue our fight till today, but situation, of course, a little bit changed. There are a lot of people who already detained. There are a lot of people who are in prison, like political prison in Belarus. And of course, there are a lot of people who already have to move our country. Just for example, or better to say, more than half of my colleagues already not in Belarus due political reason. Yes, as you say correctly, I am International Secretary of the Belarus National Youth Council, RADA. I'm also youth rights on expert group on youth rights of European Youth Forum, and this year I will try to go to Advisory Council on Youth on the Council of Europe, and probably will do my best on international or European level. Yeah, in general situation like this, we have minimum 3 deaths from peaceful manifestant. We have more than 200 political prisoners, and due the 6 months, we have more than 50,000 people who was detained and who was arrested for a couple of days or for more than 1 month. Yeah.
Wow. And what role is the Youth Council of Belarus playing in all of this, basically?
It's a very interesting question, because the situation, I mean, in human rights sphere, it's not very newest one, because we have the situation from 1994 when Lukashenko come to presidency, and Belarus National Youth Council was deprived of our registration in 2006 due political reason. Right now we are 28 independent youth organization who will tried to do our youth policy on national and of course on international level. We are 28 organization trying to do our best in different sphere, like ecological, like in general human rights, like LGBTQ, like female rights, labor, and difference. Yeah, we will try to do our best, but we are a small team. Secretariat of the Council, it's like 5 people. Yeah, probably if you have some direct question, I will explain some examples. I don't know, something like that.
Okay. Well, if you want to delve into examples, you can do so freely. In fact, we spoke about the protests earlier. They're being led by a very dispersed opposition. Like when you go for figures, for example, you have political figures like Viktor Babarika, who's in prison, if I believe. And Svitlana Tsikhanouskaya, who had to leave the country. So these are both inside and out of Belarus. Who are you supporting?
It's a very interesting question. It's more political question. Of course, I don't want for Lukashenko, and I don't recognize Lukashenko for Belarus since August 2020. My personal position, I vote for the democracy candidacy, like Tsikhanouskaya or like Babarika. For me, it doesn't matter. I'm not politic. I'm human rights defender. I'm international lawyer and person who recognize, who respect human rights can my vote, for example. But for those election, I don't know. It's difficult questions. Not for Lukashenko. It's 1,000%.
Okay, and this is a view that is shared by the Youth Council as well.
No, we on our like public statement support all of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya because she's now free. I mean, she's in Lithuania and Vilnius and made some statement, and of course we support her. But we are according to our statute. We are not political organization, and we didn't and will do not some statement about political recognition of our position.
Okay, thank you. Lukashenko says that if the protests stop, he will resign. Do you believe him?
Of course not. I don't believe because he said it minimum 5 times on past election in 2006, in 2011. We don't believe them.
Okay. But the fact remains that whether or not his call is a bluff, he does have the support of the Russian Federation. And here I want to delve into the question of why does Russia support his government? What is it doing to keep him in power? And have you, as a youth council, been met with Russian resistance, so to speak?
It's a good question. Why Russia support Belarusian regime? I mean, Lukashenko. Of course, in the Russian Federation and in Belarus, almost the same political regime. I mean, dictatorship. And of course, Lukashenko and Putin has the same, probably like values, we can say. I mean, not very well respecting of human rights. And of course, there are a lot of time together in presidential chair. Of course, they understand each other. And when you see a map of a global map of Europe, you can see that Belarus it's a neighbor country of Lithuania, Poland, and Ukraine, and of course Latvia. It's like particularly part of European countries more closely placed to Europe, and of course its political interest for Russia. The Russian Federation will continue support Lukashenko, but we can see last 6 months it's not very huge support because Putin right now on the position to see what's going on in Belarus. When we will win, I mean, democracy part of our society can make some negotiation with another part, but Lukashenko still stay in Belarus and still fighting in Belarus because he has only military support in Belarus, not for people. And we, peaceful protests, said that we wanted to do only peaceful. That's why we don't use any military service. And Lukashenko understands it. He understands that people life is not a matter in Belarus. And of course, I understand that he can arrested a lot of people, and when Belarusian citizens have a fear, and Belarus probably protest will stop in the future, but it's not totally true.
And you mentioned the protests. In fact, they were exceptionally peaceful in most cases, but there were still reports of widespread police brutality. What's the situation from your view of police brutality?
Yeah, as I said, there are minimum 5 deaths on the street when police and military kill those people. And we have an investigation team in Lithuania and Poland who have a fact that those people were killed due peaceful manifestation right now. And moreover, we have more than 500 cases recognized by the United Nations that in our prison, police and military use torture. But we have more than, like according to our human rights defender report, we have more than 5,000 people who was tortured in prison. And of course, it's inhumane, and that's why international society so actively of our protest.
Okay, and this leads me actually to a two-part question. Is the Youth Council, or are you anti-Lukashenko or anti-Russia?
As I said, according to our statute, we are not political organization. We don't think on this level. We are not anti-Russian. According to our statute or something like that. Personally, we are going for human rights, but Lukashenko going with another way. We are, of course, don't recognize Lukashenko as president. Me personally, better to say. And of course, we are against Lukashenko regime.
Okay. I asked this question because let's say Lukashenko leaves, so he's out of the picture. Belarus will still be part of the collective security treaty, which is dominated by Russia. It will still see NATO as a threat. Parts of the opposition, like those behind Maria Kolesnikova, don't even believe in sanctions by Europe. So what guarantee do you have that he will not just be replaced by a different face that keeps the same system?
It's a very good question. But once again, it's a more political question. I think that new government who will come in new Belarus, after Lukashenko, will thinking about it. And of course, right now we are not against Russia and not against the European Union. We should decide and have decide how to live in neutral situation, like probably Switzerland. We are not against, but we are neutral, and we want to live in peaceful country, in very peaceful relationship with both sides, like European and Russian Federation. Because probably in Belarus there are a lot of people. More than 80% people who speak. All people understand Russian here in Belarus, and of course we are neighbor. It's not a question about what side you should choose.
Yes, in fact, that's why I was asking, because a large part of the public in Belarus is still, you can say, a bit pro-Russian in opinion. So if they are supporting the Lukashenko regime, so to speak, then why
I
would
don't
they
think
support a different regime with the same values?
I don't think so. That there are a huge part, a lot of people who support Russia or Russian values. It's question about how to live in Belarus. It depends on your financial situation. Just for example, of course, they want to live in the same country. I mean, without revolution, how they call it, revolution or something like that. They want to have a job, normal job, and without any, I don't know, any changes. That's why they choose probably Lukashenko. But it's not about ideas and values where we should to go to European Unions or the Russian Federation.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, there's a tendency where media politicizes things, but in reality, it's not so political. People just want to live normal lives.
Of course, it's only like mass media. You can find those information in mass media interview or something like that. Not people in Belarus. I want to underline they're peaceful. And as you can see from the meeting of August 2020 and latest meetings, there are a lot of people who come onto the street with different flags. Just for example, with white, red, white, and like today official flag. It's not so question, so very important so-called question. People want without Lukashenko. Is it true?
Okay. What's the way forward now for the National Youth Council of Belarus?
Next step is, of course, for us, it's very important security moment, because our general secretary, our informational secretary, half of our board members have to move a country. Right now, we decide how to live here. Just for example, me and another my colleagues have to live here in Belarus without any problem, and how to help them. And of course, we continue our job in normal regime. Probably thanks COVID-19, we learn how to work in online format, and right now we are continue those work in online format. Of course, in youth sector, in youth rights, and in youth movement in different sphere.
And finally, your message to European youth and citizens who are watching from outside.
When you didn't see any news from Belarus, it doesn't mean that never happens here in Belarus. We continue our peaceful protest in Belarus. And when you can explain your friends, your parents, Elton, I don't know, Elton in Germany, so relatives, what's going on here in Belarus, when we can invite and have to invite some friends or some colleagues from Belarus to explain what's going on in Belarus, it will be great. All European citizens, I mean, for particularly youth, should understand that we are right now in position or in situation of civil war. Lukashenko regime kill us, detain us, and arrested us every day. And if you can, or if you want to help us, just explain this information to your parliament, to your governments, to your president.
Thank you very much, Lavon, for joining us.
Yep. Thank you too.